Welcome, Matthew Richards and DJ Adams.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is our little video makeshift media room on the staircase.
It's very nice.
Nice and warm.
Yes,
Quite nice and
beautiful
warm, yeah. A little bit nippy maybe, but it's all right. Let's get cracking. So, first of all, let's get a little introduction from both of you. Matthew, if you would like to start.
Certainly, I work for RedSolution. I am principal architect, for whatever that means. We'll discuss in a minute. Yeah, that's me done. 12 years of functional SAP experience, got bored, and now I've been given the opportunity to look at the new technology and brave the dark side.
Should be interesting.
It's fun in the dark side.
Yes, yes it is. I'm enjoying it already. It's only been a few months, but
I
I am enjoying it.
Superb performance the other week.
Oh, thank you very much. And yours today.
Oh, we love you.
Oh, come on.
Demo jam. Oh, yeah, we are. Yeah, already friends. Best
Are you not Demo Jam?
No, I should just
no,
leave. Shall I leave? I'll just... Do you ever want to introduce yourself as well?
Yes, I'm DJ Adams. I'm a principal consultant, maybe architect, I don't know, at Bluefin Solutions, SAP Mentor. I've been hacking on SAP for 26, 27 years, and I feel very old when I say that, but no.
You don't look
Experience.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll come again. Yeah, so basis, development, integration, plumbing, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Architecture, whatever the hell that is.
Yeah.
We'll try and find out today. That's the idea, I think. So, guys, let's talk about architecture, shall we?
Let's talk about architecture.
Today's theme, as I've put it down, is enterprise architecture. Now, shall we start? What does that actually mean? Who want to start with that? What does enterprise architecture mean?
I don't know. I mean, okay, you go first.
No, you go first, because you give the correct answer, and then I will make something up.
Well, first of all, I don't really agree with it, but everybody is a bloody architect.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the whole thing has lost its architecture has lost its meaning.
Yeah.
To me, enterprise architecture is more in the direction of what is still called basis. It's more in the direction of, okay, well, we've got all these different systems here, all these different platforms, vertical solutions and stuff. How do we make them all work together? How do we make them all join together? How do we make a consistent, cohesive, coherent layer on top of which we can build the applications in a functional way?
Yeah.
That's what I think of when I think of enterprise architecture.
Okay.
From my opinion, I completely agree with you. Everybody is an architect nowadays, and I was an architect because I put it on my CV. Well, be an architect.
Yeah,
Everyone else has done it for a long time. People are advertising for jobs to be an architect. In my view, solution architect and enterprise architect are used interchangeably when they are, to me, a different thing, but neither are well defined. So for me, an enterprise architect is somebody who, at a very high level, should be a senior person in an organisation who looks for the next few years at where the business wants to go, and, like you say, looks at the systems behind it. So they'll look at what technology, is it going to be HANA, is it going to be mobile, is it going to be a new whatever system, and works with the business to make sure that the business and IT are along the same track. So as an enterprise, I would categorise the technology side of things as more of the solution side of things. So the solution side, exactly all the clever stuff I don't understand, the basis type of stuff and getting all the systems to talk together. I mean, that's what I would see as a solution architect. But you get functional people who call themselves a functional architect, and conceptually it makes sense, because you in the same way as you need to make sure that all the systems work together from a technical point of view, from a functional point of view, you need to make sure that the modules fit together. But there is no clearly defined.
No, you could almost see that enterprise solution and functional architects or architecture is on a timeline. So enterprise architecture is right out there. What should we be doing?
Yeah.
Solution architecture is how do we do it, and functional architecture is how do we make it work for the user?
Yeah.
And it's almost like the not a hierarchy, but a timeline of
That kind of answers
focus.
Actually my next question, because it was what is a solution architect, what's a functional architect? I think you've got to say, what is a technical architect in that architect hierarchy that you just put in?
That's a good question. For me, a technical architect is the person who actually knows. It sits alongside the solution architect. The solution architect is looking at it from that point of view, and a technical architect is looking from that.
Okay.
For me, anyway.
No, I completely agree. Technical architect is the thing you will never see on my CV. It is the stuff, like, exactly as you say, that the people who can actually say, right, how do we get this system talking to this system? What are the things that I need to consider? Yeah. And that's why I completely agree. And I think that's why you see more of it, because of the so many different systems that speak to each other in different ways, and things have to be so agile and moving so quickly. You really need an architect of some description to advise a business on, are you doing sensible things? Are you putting a mobile platform just as we're going to Wi-Fi, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think there's more fear in businesses because things are changing so much that they, if you pin your colours to the wrong bandwagon, you could be in trouble.
Yeah, and actually, it's even worse than it appears, as it were, to quote a famous phrase, in that with DevOps, there's a growing interest in the SAP world in DevOps, development operations, which is like a cross between basis and development, to use SAP terms.
Yeah.
But effectively, it's all about making the whole development, testing, deployment, production process automated, streamlined, fault tolerant, and more reliable. Okay. And that DevOps space sort of moves, intertwines in all these different areas, and that sort of is another dimension that complicates it even. Well, not complicates it more, but it adds another dimension that you have to think about as well when you're talking about architecture.
Yeah. Maybe I should do create a visual on the final video. This is the hierarchy of architecture.
Yeah, dunk, and then a little
we'll
thing.
Do that afterwards.
I like that. That's definitely right. Yeah.
Excellent. So, guys, looking maybe at the terminology, because I think that kind of captures what type of architecture we're looking at here. There's various levels. How come that enterprise architecture, as a concept and as a terminology, is being seen more and more current day? Because if I think back a couple of years back, I didn't regularly go and say, oh yeah, we have an enterprise architect layer. Why is it now sort of being used more by customers and candidates?
Do you want a cynical answer?
By all means.
It's sort of like an arms race. So that role that we've described in enterprise architecture as having is what I used to call an architect. But now we have, terms, and these are just terms, as I'm sure we all agree, just terms, functional, solution. So in order to distinguish the types of roles, we have to have a prefix, which is enterprise. So enterprise architect is nothing new. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's probably one of the oldest architectures, oldest architectures around. But it has to distinguish itself from the stuff that we do from a functional perspective and from a holistic solution perspective.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that it's difficult. For me, I do completely agree. Terminology changes all the time and things become fashionable. And I think you've got things like TOGAF and the Open Group that to me, this is going to be a little bit controversial, to me devalues some of the role.
I'm proud not to be TOGAF certified.
Yeah, I mean it's the same.
I am.
It makes, when you look at something like TOGAF, me and you could be in trouble for this. When you look at something like TOGAF, they make something that should be common sense into something that takes weeks and weeks, and you can't be agile with the weight of that methodology or whatever framework behind you.
TOGAF is almost like enterprise services for architecture. Overly complex.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think it's difficult because the whole point about an enterprise architect now, they need to be knowledgeable in a lot of things. They need to be agile because things change all the time. Yeah. And I think it's very hard to be agile when you've got that weight of methodology behind you. Yeah, I might be wrong.
No, I completely agree, actually, Matthew. I think there is this sort of push and pull between certification and not, and this conversation is in danger of veering off to a really interesting sort of side street of certification, whether the certification has any value at all.
Needed or not.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and that's an old conversation as well.
Yeah, it is an old conversation, and TOGAF falls clearly into that sort of thing. But yeah, definitely, you won't catch me doing a TOGAF course.
Okay, good.
But principally, what I think, to go back to your original question, I think that we're in to me, a fairly unique point in time that you've never got a bigger gap between what normal everyday business people understand, somebody in charge of a company understands, and the available technology out there. I mean, you look at my position at the moment. I've done SAP for 13 years, and now I've been introduced daily to new technology that I don't understand, and it's quite hard to get just straightforward answers. What should I be using? What direction do I want to go? And at the moment, you see HANA and you see a lot of people talking about a lot of stuff, but to a normal everyday business person, they need it breaking down to this is what you need to focus on. This is not relevant for your business. And that's why I'm slightly skeptical. HANA obviously is being pushed and it's it's very good, but for some businesses, there is no requirement. In my opinion, there's no requirement for it because this big data is only applicable for certain types of businesses at the moment, I would say.
Totally agree. I mean, I was laughing, you picked up on that because I've been involved in situations where HANA's been applied to improve performance. It's not worked for whatever reason. No particular fault of anybody's or any particular technologies. And actually, what was needed was good old-fashioned performance tuning. Heard of that? Performance tuning. Remember that?
Yeah.
For goodness' sake, tune your app, tune your data. Anyway, sorry, that was a bit of a rant. Sorry.
That's all right.
It's true. But I completely agree. Never before has there been so much technology avalanching.
Yeah.
Suddenly become a verb, avalanching upon us.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what's really interesting is that never before has, in contrast, the user and the business user been so close to the technology with the whole UX thing.
Yeah,
so all of a sudden, with everybody and his dog correctly is thinking about user experience and so on, which brings them a step closer to the stuff that we work with, which is the technology. But then behind us is this sort of wailing wall of stuff that we're trying to control. Yeah. And work out what's the best for that particular customer or that particular customer, or what's best across the board.
Yeah. And I think you're right on the UX bit. It's almost like we're looking at because it's becoming such a big concept with all of the consumerization of devices, etc., that it might all at some point become its own, profession, just purely focused on that. If it's not already is, but
I'd say it already is. Yeah. I mean, there's the whole design thinking, there's the whole UX, and I'm working with people. With type of people that are totally amazing folk that I'd never thought I'd be working with before, which are designers. Yeah. Designers who think about interaction, think about process in a graphical, in a design way.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing. And I think it is, conceptually, an area that is now a valid, if you can use that word, a valid area to talk about in the SAP developer ecosystem.
On the other side to that, I completely agree with you, but I still think that at this moment in time, going back to your point, there's no shortcuts. No. And if your business's processes are flawed, your business processes are flawed. No technology is going to help you with that. And I think sometimes there's a danger that it looks a lot of things look impressive. Exactly, yeah, exactly. And I think that there's still a lot of business out there to go back and revisit implementations, look at the way things are doing. It's not, if there's, people will say, it needs to be a better user experience. Well, I would go back and say, well, no, you need to make sure that the people you've got are trained. There's no
and also, is the business process correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you having to go around the houses to go from A to B? Yeah. And why is that? Is that because the business process has actually been designed incorrectly, or is it really the UI? Yeah. Sometimes it could be either.
Yeah, 100% agree. And that's why you need experienced people like ourselves to come in and advise. Because, like you said, the technology by itself can't do everything. And it's the application of that technology that's important.
There's also a tendency, not everywhere, of course, but a tendency to grab and jump on the latest X or the latest Y. Oh, let's use this new technology to solve that problem, whereas in fact that problem can be solved with something a lot simpler.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult because, as Matthew said before, there's technologies suddenly appearing from nowhere all the time in the SAP ecosphere. Yeah. So there is a temptation. I need to know about that. Okay, how do I learn about that? Okay, I'm thinking about that all the time. Therefore, that is the solution to this problem. Actually, it's not. Take a step back, and the solution might be a lot simpler.
And I think there's instances of technology that's appeared. I've heard of it. I thought, I wonder, I should really find out what that is, and it's disappeared again before I've had a chance to even. And I think there's some scepticism, and I think there's some legitimate scepticism that it's hard to know. Nobody wants to be a Nokia or a BlackBerry where you're not you're not using the right technology. But in the same way, it's very hard to see the wood for the trees and what's relevant and what's not.
Absolutely.
This is where we come back round to the start of the conversation, which is where I think an enterprise architect earns their beans, which is, do we bet on X or Y or Z? Which is the direction we need to go in?
Yeah. And in the same way, to go back and say, this technology is great, but we don't need it. Yeah. That's as valid to me to get someone like you say, an enterprise architect evaluates a new technology and says, work with the business and go, it would be great if we had this. It would look lovely, but the return on investment isn't there, and we shouldn't go down that route.
Absolutely.
Perfect example came up yesterday. In fact, I answered the email this morning. A client has this external system, a SQL database that you want to chuck out and replace and do something inside of SAP, whatever that means. Somebody has proposed using, and it's a 5 or 6 or 7 SQL tables, database tables, with a few queries and maybe an update, and most of these tables are configuration. One's like a transaction store, and somebody's proposed BRF Plus. Why? What's wrong with, a global class, for example?
Yeah. No, you do get the impression that sometimes people understand a technology and look to apply that technology rather than look at the business processes and saying what is the best technology we need to apply.
Yeah.
I mean, that happens all over the place. I've been to lots of customers who have exactly that situation. They've chosen the technology and are trying to justify the implication of that technology rather than starting at the problem and trying to fill that problem.
Yeah.
It is an age-old problem. The pushback is a good one. I think it is very important that you're getting that as a client in a company these days from someone within your company who knows what's out there. Says this is maybe not actually what you need, even though the hype is there, for example.
But I think there's also a tendency for people sometimes to maybe be a little bit worried about speaking out and saying the wrong thing or the thing that flies against what everybody else is saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure Matthew isn't that sort of person. I'm not that sort of person. I'll say what I think, and you will too.
But I do agree with you. The conversations that you can have with SAP, we've done this for years, you more than me, but you can have this conversation and you feel stupid because you feel everybody else must understand all this terminology and you're too frightened to speak out. Like you now, I'm in the position to go, I don't understand. Explain it to me. And often when you delve into it, you don't understand because it actually doesn't make sense. It's not being justified in a way that you can sort of think, oh yeah, it looks nice, but what does it do? And I think, like you say, a lot of people don't want to be put in that position because you don't want to be human nature. You don't want to go, I haven't got a clue what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that you not only assess the technology, but you really get down to what the hell does it do and what could it do for my business?
Yeah.
Which brings me on to the point that came up a long time ago, but it's still relevant today. If you want to be doing the right things and saying the right things, you need to make sure you know what you're talking about. And the only thing you can do is read, learn, and then it will come that you can look at a piece of technology and you think no, and you can look at another piece of technology and think, well, actually, that's got something.
Yeah,
within the space of a white paper.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a little bit of advice for consultants out there looking at this. It's important that you put those shoes on and consider there's other pieces of software out there that might be better for the customers you're helping out.
And I think you're right. I think that you've got to the point now where I started with this job and my aim was to become an expert in everything. And I think it's just frankly impossible now. A few years ago, you may have been able to do it. The modules, when it was just modular based, you could have a good grasp of most of them. Whereas now, like you say, you need to know enough to know who's the right person to talk to, and to be able to get rid of the hype, look behind it, and say, well, what the hell does this do fundamentally? Understand that I understand what it does, and then you can assess whether it's something you should look at as well.
So I think let's move on to the latter part of this conversation because I'm sure we could keep on talking about this. So, DemoJam.
DemoJam.
By the way, I'm standing here with two DemoJam winners. Matthew Richards from the TechEd infamous team now, Cloud Sitter. He was just a part of it, but he was there.
He was ace.
Thank you, mate.
And then we got
Thank you.
and DJ. Today, this very morning,
Yes.
won DemoJam at this very event.
This very event, just there.
Up here.
I hope you realise that until you won that, I could say I was the most recent DemoJam winner. Now you've taken it from me.
Yes. I on that note, because when I heard that this was happening and when Matthew won this, I was curious. Well, can you please tell us what is a DemoJam?
It's no slides, it's live, and it's 5 minutes. That's it.
Yes, it was 6 minutes in Amsterdam,
but
exactly the same. And it is quite daunting. I mean, ours was more of a, because we went through the InnoJam route. So we went InnoJam with an application that sort of worked, and then we went to DemoJam and we did it then. Whereas you were far braver, in as much as you started with, I know it wasn't nothing, but you started with a blank screen and then built your application as you went along. We won because we kind of had a good story, whereas you won because you've got a good story and you obviously know what you're talking about.
But the other cool thing that Matthew has failed to mention is that this is the first time this year at TechEd that an InnoJam participant
That's modesty
has won. And that is, for people who've not managed to attend TechEd or not know what InnoJam is, that is a massive thing. So, it's being too modest.
It was very kind. I did have, when I was speaking to a couple, there was one lady in particular who had a tear in her eye, and I felt quite. It was touching because was the first time I've ever been to a TechEd. I'd never been to a TechEd before. First time, so I went to DemoJam, didn't really know what to expect. Great experience.
Yeah.
I would literally say, if you've never been to a DemoJam, I can't. My programming is this. I'm useless. But there's a place for everyone. The design thinking that you were talking about was great. Went through it all, and it was a brilliant process. And then obviously the DemoJam, terrifying experience, but
Terrifying in a good way, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic experience.
So to recap, you guys would definitely recommend guys to try it out if they haven't done it yet. It's an experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I think it shows in both the experiences that you don't have to spend the most amount of money to win the event. You know, I think it's one of those things, if you can show something that's got a practical application, then you've got a good chance of winning.
Do you know how much prep time I had for the DemoJam today?
I'm assuming not long.
3 hours. That's all you need.
And everybody else who's just participated have just sworn at you.
But I mean, that's the thing, you know. Do something that you're passionate about, and you know the rest will follow. I think.
And I think to kind of wrap up the whole conversation, it's the practical application of the technology that will win you DemoJam. It's not necessarily the most glamorous technology. It is someone taking that and saying, well, actually, what they've shown is amazing, but you know, it doesn't do anything I want it to do.
For example, yours, simplest idea, well executed, and you know, people got it.
It was, as I say, great experience, and I think practical application of technology. That's the message from all this.
For you guys then looking at this, that's some advice from the winners that should be taken on board. If you're looking to try and do it in the future.
The winners. That's a good name.
So I think that's all for today. Thank you so much, both of you guys.
Thanks for your time.
Great meeting you, and have a good conference.